John Mayall, OBE, born the 29th of November 1933, is an English blues singer, guitarist, organist and songwriter, whose musical career spans over 60 years. In the 1960s, he was the founder of John Mayall and the Bluesbreakers, a band which has counted among its members some of the most famous blues and blues rock musicians. Born in Macclesfield, Cheshire in 1933, Mayall was the son of Murray Mayall, a guitarist and jazz music enthusiast. From an early age, John was drawn to the sounds of American blues players such as Lead Belly, Albert Ammons, Pinetop Smith and Eddie Lang, and taught himself to play the piano, guitars, and harmonica. In 1956, with college fellow Peter Ward, Mayall had founded the Powerhouse Four, which consisted of both men and other local musicians with whom they played at local dances. In 1962, Mayall became a member of the Blues Syndicate. The band was formed by trumpeter John Rowlands and alto saxophonist Jack Masaryk, who had seen the Alexis Corner band at a Manchester club and wanted to try a similar blend of jazz and blues. It also included guitarist Ray Cummings and drummer Hughie Flint, whom Mayall already knew. John and his band were frequent and popular artists at all-night R&B sessions at the Twisted Wheel Cellar Club in central Manchester. Alexis Corner persuaded Mayall to opt for a full-time musical career and moved to London, where Corner introduced him to many other musicians and helped him to find gigs. In late 1963, with his band, which was now called the Bluesbreakers, Mayall started playing at the Marquee Club. The lineup was Mayall, Ward, John McVie on bass and guitarist Bernie Watson, formerly of Cyril Davies and the R&B All-Stars. The next spring, Mayall obtained his first recording date with producer Ian Samwell. The band, with Martin Hart at the drums, recorded 2 tracks, Crawling Up a Hill, as well as Mr. James. Shortly after, Hughie Flint replaced Hart and Roger Dean took the guitar from Bernie Watson. This lineup backed John Lee Hooker on his British tour in 1964. In April 1965, former Yardbirds guitarist, Eric Clapton replaced Roger Dean. And John Mayall's career entered a decisive phase. The Bluesbreakers began attracting considerable attention. That summer the band cut a couple of tracks for a single, I'm Your Witch Doctor, B.W. Telephone Blues, released in October. In August 1965, however, Clapton left for a jaunt to Greece with a bunch of relative musical amateurs calling themselves the Glands. John Wider, John Slaughter, and Jeff Crivet attempted to fill in as Bluesbreaker guitarist, but, finally, Peter Green took charge. John McVie was dismissed, and during the next few months, Jack Bruce, from the Graham Bond Organization, played bass. In November 1965, Clapton returned, and Green departed as Mayall had guaranteed Clapton his spot back in the Bluesbreakers whenever he tired of the Glands. McVie was allowed back, and Bruce left to join Manfred Mann, but not before a live date by the Mayall-Clapton-Bruce Flint lineup was recorded on Mayall's 2-track tape recorder at London's Flamingo Club in November. The rough recording provided tracks that later appeared on the 1969 compilation Looking Back and the 1977 Primal Solos. Lonely Years, B.W. Bernard Jenkins, was released as a single the next August on producer Mike Vernon's Perda Records label. Both tracks appeared again 2 decades later in Clapton's Crossroads box set. In a November 1965 session, blues pianist singer champion Jack Dupree, originally from New Orleans, but in the 1960s living in Europe, got Mayall and Clapton to play on a few tracks. In the meantime, on the 11th of June the formation of Cream, Clapton, bassist Jack Bruce, and drummer Ginger Baker, had been revealed in the music press, much to the embarrassment of Clapton, who had not said anything about this to Mayall. Mayall had to replace Clapton, and he succeeded in persuading Peter Green to come back. During the following year, with Green on guitar and various other sidemen, some 40 tracks were recorded. The album A Hard Road was released in February 1967. Today its expanded versions include most of this material, and the album itself also stands as a classic. In early 1967, Mayall released an EP recorded with American blues harpist Paul Butterfield. Peter Green gave notice and soon started his own project, Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac, which eventually was to include all three of Mayall's bluesbreakers at this time, Green, McVie, and drummer Mick Fleetwood, who was a bluesbreaker for only a few weeks. A six-piece lineup, consisting of Mayall, Mick Taylor as lead guitarist, John McVie still on bass, Huey Flint or Hartley on drums, and Rip Cant and Chris Mercer on saxophones, recorded the album Crusade on July 1967. In 1967, bluesbreakers spent most of the year touring abroad, and Mayall taped the shows on a portable recorder. Along with the big change in sound, Mayall decided on a big change in scenery, a move to Los Angeles. The new band made its US debut at the Newport Jazz Festival on the 5th of July, whilst the performance of the 12th of July at the Fillmore East provided the tracks for the live album The Turning Point. A studio album, Empty Rooms, was recorded with the same personnel, with Mayall's next bassist, former Canned Heat member Larry Taylor, playing bass in a duet with Thompson on To a Princess. In November 1970, Mayall launched a recording project involving many of the most notable musicians with whom he had played during the previous several years. The double album Back to the Roots features Clapton, Mick Taylor, Jerry McGee, and Harvey Mandel on guitar, Sugarcane Harris on violin, Armand on woodwinds, Thompson and Larry Taylor on bass, and Hartley on drums. Paul Lagos was with Sugarcane and ended up drumming on 5. Mayall wrote all the songs and sang all the vocals, as usual by now, plus played harmonica, guitar, keyboards, drums, and percussion. In 1982, Mayall was reunited with Mick Taylor, John McVie and Colin Allen, three musicians of his 1960s lineups, for a 2-year world tour from which a live album would emerge a decade later. In 1984, Mayall restored the known Bluesbreakers for a lineup comprising the two lead guitars of Walter Trout and Coco Montoya, bassist Bobby Haynes and drummer Joe Yule. The mythic name did, perhaps, something to enhance the interest in a band which by all standards was already remarkable. On the occasion of the 40th year of his career, Mayall invited fellow musicians for the recording of a celebratory album. Along for the Ride appeared in 2001, credited to John Mayall and friends with 20 names listed on the cover. To celebrate his 70th birthday, Mayall reunited with special guests, Eric Clapton, Mick Taylor and Chris Barber during a fundraiser show. This Unite for UNICEF concert took place on the 19th of July 2003 at the Liverpool Arena, and was captured on film for a DVD release. In 2005, Mayall was appointed an OBE in the Honours list. In November 2008, Mayall announced on his website he was disbanding the Bluesbreakers, to cut back on his heavy workload and give himself freedom to work with other musicians. In 2013, Mayall signed with producer Eric Korn's label, 40 Below Records. The two have produced 4 studio albums together, a special life featuring accordionist C.J. Shenia, Find a Way to Care, Talk About That featuring Joe Walsh and Nobody Told Me. In 2016, Mayall was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame. On June 25, 2019, the New York Times Magazine listed John Mayall among hundreds of artists whose material was reportedly destroyed in the 2008 Universal fire.